Have you ever tried to build a business between flare-ups? To climb the career ladder while your body is begging you to lie down? What does success look like when your ambition has to coexist with chronic illness? Welcome to Chronic Boss Unfiltered, the podcast where ambition meets women's health. I'm Lilly Stairs, and I've built 2 businesses while managing 3 autoimmune conditions. Each week, I sit down with powerhouse women, entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers who are building the career of their dreams while navigating chronic conditions. Together, we'll help you dream big while prioritizing your health. No filters, no fluff, just raw stories from the hospital bed to the boardroom. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Chronic Boss Unfiltered. I'm your host, Lilly Stairs, and today I am pinching myself that we have the Amanda Goetz here with us. She is a 2-time founder, a 5-time CMO, best-selling author of Toxic Grit, and mom of 3. Her story has taken her from the C-suite to the ER to writing a book about what happens when ambition outpaces your nervous system. Today, we'll talk about her health journey, her character theory, which I'm obsessed with, by the way, and what it really means to rewrite ambition when your body has already forced the pause. Amanda, thank you for making the time on your amazing book tour to be here with us.
No, thank you for having me. I feel like you've been an OG subscriber and reader, and we've been connected. So I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are so lucky to have you. And I'm excited to chat about Toxic Grit through the lens of being a chronic boss. We were talking right before we jumped on, and I told you how this book has really come at the perfect time for me and has changed my life. I will also say that I have suggested it to literally every woman I know. I feel like I need to get on an affiliate program for the book because everybody needs to be reading it. All right, so let's jump in. I want to start, we definitely need to dig into character theory, but let's talk a little bit about your background first. And specifically, because this is the Chronic Boss Unfiltered podcast, I want to talk about the intersection of your career and health. So you've shared in your book that you've had a number of different diagnoses that you faced, from celiac to postpartum anxiety, and then panic attacks that were intense enough to land you in the ER. So can you take me back to that week when you were in the ER and what was happening in your life that brought you there?
Yeah, gosh, it was twice in the same week I went to the ER, once by ambulance and once my ex-husband had to drive me. And it was after COVID. So let's kind of paint the picture of the timeline. I was a mom of 3 kids under the age of 4 in New York City, managing a public company brand and a large marketing team while going through a divorce back in 2018 and 2019. COVID hits in 2020. I'm still going through my divorce, and the wedding industry imploded. So I was working round the clock to try to make sure that the wedding industry was okay, while also having to move back in with my now soon to be ex-husband, but I haven't lived with him in years, and we have to raise the kids together until we figured out if the world was ending. And then I go on to launch my startup because I was just so passionate about the fact that I was watching so many women just unable to make space for themselves when their world, kind of the home and work, collapsed in on us. And it was just every role that we played was just smushed together, and we were just all hanging on by a thread. So I launched that D2C company, which was a House of Wise, to help women create space for sleep, sex, stress, and strength, and did that for a few years. So now fast forward, I have not taken the space to process everything that I had just gone through. And it was the fall of 2021. And I'm remembering the timeline solely because of who I was dating at that time. And I can because I was, a single mom trying to date and trying to find, a partnership again, because now I had been a single mom for many years. I was realizing all of the subconscious and micro traumas that had happened. I think we as women too, we look for capital T trauma, and then that's what we feel like we can claim as real trauma. And it took me a lot of time in therapy to understand what micro trauma is and how to acknowledge and make space for those things. And so it hit me in the middle of the night. I was trying to fall asleep and a panic attack, which I had never had before, just completely rocked me. I thought I was dying. And so I called 911 and I had no community at the time in Miami. I had just moved here. And so I called my cleaning lady and she came over in the middle of the night and she's like a mom to me now. I love her. And she like came over in the middle of the night, was there with my kids. And that just showed you like I had no found like solid root system. I was just trying to grow without any time in the dirt to like settle in, grow roots, grow stability. I just kept trying to grow and grow and grow faster without any support system. And then I went to the ER. They did the whole like, they hit me with an EpiPen. They didn't know if it was an allergic reaction. It was so bad. Like I remember like the week later trying to get on a plane to go to a huge podcast interview for this company. And it was like a dream one. I was flying to Las Vegas. This huge podcaster was going to be in Las Vegas. I had one of those episodes where I got on the plane and I started to feel the anxiety attack coming and I had to get off the plane, which I've never had in my entire life. And I think I used to wear grit as such a badge of honor that I can handle so much. I'm a first generation college grad. Like I've been, through some stuff. I grew up pretty poor. And it's just like, I used to think that was my badge of honor. And my body was like red alert system. Like this isn't working. And so there was a whole series of time where I just had to start downshifting in every aspect of my life and trying to figure out like what was really wrong with me that this kept happening and I couldn't get a handle on it. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so there are so many of us who I think we get signals sometimes in our brain, but we push past them. We say, oh, it's just busy season. Oh, I'm really tough. I can get through this. Oh, when I get through this next launch, then I'll give my body a break. What stories were you telling yourself at that time that just you kept going? You ignored the signals, or did you even notice there were signals?
I think we become immune to the signals. We kind of just, yeah, I'm tired, or yeah, I'm stressed, or we become almost acclimated to the fight or flight. Like it doesn't hit us as hard. So many people have asked me, like, how did you survive a divorce, COVID, 3 young kids, single mom? And I'm like, I didn't have a choice. Like, what choice did I have in that moment but to keep showing up for my kids? I had no financial like security. I don't get alimony. And so it's like, I had to keep going because what other choice did I have? And so I do think, and this is why this book was so important for me to write, because since then, I've been really intentional about the proactive rest because I know I can push myself to its breaking point, but that breaking point comes at a huge cost. And I was sidelined for months of not being able to show up as the mom that I wanted to date. I had no space for dating. I had no space for any friendships or community. I had to retreat from my life to try to figure it out. And I use the analogy a lot of marathon training. I've run 4 marathons, and I remember one of the marathons, I was feeling really cocky and confident, and I was like, I'll skip. I've already done one. I'll skip the rest days, and I'm going to squeeze in an extra like strength workout here. And I got hurt. And then I had to take weeks off of training for PT, which ultimately made that race so much harder than had I just taken the rest days as they were planned. And so this book was really about how do we become aware? And so there's awareness tools in there. How do you actually become aware of where the priorities are happening in your life, or which characters, as you alluded to character theory, which characters are really vying for more attention in a bigger way? And then how do you actually create an operating rhythm and in these transition sequences in the micro part of your day? Because we can't be everything to everyone all the time. And we also can't stop working. Many of us need work. We need to pay our bills and keep the lights on and feed our babies. So how do you actually drive the speed limit at work? Like, what does that look like? What does it feel like? And what stories do you have to let go of that you're telling yourself that are forcing you to just drive faster than you know you should be.
Yes. Yes. Yes to all of this. And when you talk about we can't be all things to all people at all times. It's something that so many of it we've been taught and that so many of us are trying to unlearn now. And it's important that we unlearn it because we're burning out and we're driving ourselves into the ground trying to do it. And it's not helping anyone and it's not serving all of our different characters. And I want to talk about this now. I want to talk about character theory. As I said, I'm really obsessed with it. It's helped me a lot personally. It actually reminds me a little bit of internal family systems. Shout out to my therapy girlies out there. So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit more about this theory, the different characters, and how they take center stage in different seasons?
Yeah, so I'll tell the story really quick of where character theory originated, which it was kind of a typical day in my life as a single mom in New York City. This is pre-COVID days. So I would wake up and there's like a particular day that I remember this happening. I woke up, took my oldest two to their preschools. My nanny was home with my baby. I dropped them off. I ran to Starbucks, like picked up the order ahead like thing, and then I drank it on the subway, got down, and I was running back and forth from like leading editorial meetings and product meetings and marketing meetings to like pumping every, 2.5, 3 hours. And then leaving work at 4:30 so I could get home around 5 to let the nanny go and then I'm on nighttime duty. I've got to get 3 kids fed, bathed, story timed into their cribs. And there was this very distinct moment where the older 2 were in their cribs asleep and I was rocking my son and feeding him. And I took out my phone and I wrote the words, "You can have it all." And I'm like, this isn't working. Where's the friction coming from? And I realized it was the word you, because if I isolated the work version of me and she got to have it all, she wouldn't leave meetings early to have to go breastfeed or pump. She wouldn't leave work at 4:30 because she wanted to keep going and finish that deck she was working on, because she's finally feeling confident in her ability to lead and grow. And she wants to go to that networking dinner because that one person's going to be there and she really wants FaceTime with that person, right? Like in isolation, she has her own goals. But now the mom version of me in isolation, she doesn't want to like miss swim class that happened while I was at work or miss the things that they did during the day. She doesn't want to log back into Slack. She wants to just be present and be on and not have to look at her phone. And there's these other versions of me that were so in that moment where I was like, there's a part of me that wants to not have anyone need me, not work, not family. I want to just like be completely independent and find out who I am in like regardless of all these other versions of me. And then there's the version of me that just wanted to be with my friends and laughing and feeling young and light and levity. And so it like hit me in this moment that we had been fed this almost like fool's errand of finding alignment. I kept trying to like make all of these versions of me find harmony. And in that moment, I needed to like kind of separate them and acknowledge their diversity and their uniqueness within me and kind of somewhat oppositional forces of nature that are happening inside of me. And when I did that, it allowed me to kind of like guilt-free say, okay, when this version is kind of taking over, that's why I don't care about X, Y, and Z. And that's why I'm not going to be able to do that. So I literally just wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal that was like, the title was Why I'm No Longer Bringing My Whole Self to Work. And what I don't mean by that article is we need to show up authentically as ourselves, right? Like whoever we are as a human and what you value and stand for, like that needs to come to work. What I'm saying is so many times we're trying to condense these other versions into our work version as well. And I know like my work version of me is so different than the mom version of me. Like work version of me is super intense and assertive and kind of almost like not aggressive, but on and really intense. Then the mom version of me is so silly and playful and like receiving energy. Like I want the kids to take up more space. Those are two really hard versions of you to reconcile. So it allowed in this book people to kind of separate their characters, meet the characters, And also kind of take it a step further and understand like why they feel so much guilt when that character takes the lead or takes a back seat, and or which characters have been written off of the script. I've done workshops now since the book has been out for a few weeks. I've done a lot of workshops with women's groups that women are like, my goddess character has been written out of the movie. Like I go from CEO mode to mom mode to maybe time with my partner, but like goddess, like where is she? I'm like, well, that makes sense because if you isolate your goddess character, what does she need? She doesn't probably want to see kids and or remember that she has kids or to-do lists or any of the stress from work. We have to get out of our head and into our body. It's just the acknowledgement of this diversity within us and then the alleviation of the guilt that we can't be all of those things at the same time. We can't.
Yeah. And I love how you reinforce how we have to let go of some of this guilt that we're carrying because it does weigh, I know it weighs so heavily on a lot of us. And I want to talk a little bit about this idea of intentional imbalance that you discuss in the book. And you name characters on if you're like the stove of life, if you will, and you're cooking, you have different characters on the front burner in every season. For a lot of people in our community, the doctor character, taking care of ourselves and our health, is on the front burner whether they like it or not, because their days are revolving around treatment and recovery and managing symptoms. And underneath all of that, we have a lot of women, they're deeply ambitious. Their inner CEO wants more airtime. So how do you coach someone whose doctor character has to be center stage, even, and honor that season without feeling like their CEO is disappearing or falling behind?
This is so real. I mean, first and foremost, if you are kind of newly into it, like a newer diagnosis, there's a lot that goes into that, right? There's researching it, finding new doctors, making appointments, all of that. I use a framework that I've used for all parts of my characters, which I call the to-do list, because sometimes the cognitive load of doing all of those things can become paralyzing, and then you get none of it done because you're like so paralyzed by the sheer amount of things that you have to think about and do. So what I would encourage somebody to do is the difference between a to-do list, like I have to make these doctor's appointments, this thing, all research this new protocol, whatever. Make a parking lot of all of those things. Get it all out of your head. Every day, you're going to pick two things and you call it your to-do list. And I have Post-it notes always next to me. So I write down two things I'm going to do for that. And I'm going to do those two things today. And then I'm going to let the cognitive load go because I know I have a parking lot where I'm going to pick two more things tomorrow. That means you're going to get 10 things done a week. So that might be like, I'm going to make that doctor's appointment. I'm going to research this doctor and I'm going to make that doctor's appointment. The cognitive load of having that weigh on you for weeks. Like I remember when I first was like, I think I have something going on with me, like celiac or whatever. I remember being like, I need to find a gastro doctor and I need to schedule colonoscopy. That sat in my head for so long. Whereas if I would have just done the to-do list, the cognitive load wouldn't have been so much and weighed down. And that cognitive load takes up the other capacity that you have for those other characters. So then I want you to apply that to your work character. So you'll have a separate parking lot of all the things your work character wants to do because you're ambitious about something. Maybe you want to start a newsletter. Well, start a newsletter is a huge endeavor. You have to start to break it down. I call that the Kit Kat strategy, but you break it down. Start newsletter. Too big. You can't do it in 1 hour. So break it down. Okay, you might break it down into, I'm going to come up with 20 subject lines. I'm going to create a template for the newsletter. Those are things you could do with about an hour. So you're going to start to break those down and then you'll have your to-dos that you do in a day. When you do this, what it's actually creating for you is your enoughness line, because the cognitive load of all the things that we can do, there's research that shows the physical appearance of a to-do list on your desk or multiple tabs open on your screen means our brain is subconsciously processing what needs to still happen for those. Thus, your brain is no longer giving all of its cognitive ability and energy into the single thing in front of you. So it's going to take longer, feel harder, all of that. So you just focus and finish on the to-dos that you've created. And I try to space them to be, and just reminding yourself that that's enough. If the rest of the day goes to shit and you can't get anything else done, you did 2 things. That's 10 a week. That is more than most people do in a month, because we haven't learned to block out the cognitive noise that's happening.
This is such valuable insight for our members in particular, who just really, I see so many of these women putting pressure on themselves to try to do all the things all at once and feeling guilty that I'm caught up with my doctor's appointments and my health has really feels like it's sidelined me from getting things done this week with work. And so this is giving permission to break that down, to one, not feel guilty, and then also giving some real tools and resources to break things down and make it easier for folks to be able to step into their different characters. So I thank you for that. So I want to talk a little bit about another key theme in your book, which is around reclaiming the 5 to 9. There was a quote that just really stuck out to me. I've been thinking about it a lot. You say, I believe the biggest problem we are facing right now is that people are waiting to live their non-work lives on the weekends. So tell me more about this idea of reclaiming the 5 to 9, especially for those who have like a really hard time turning their brain off.
First of all, I do this math equation where it basically, if you live your life on the weekends, you lose 10,000 days of your kind of like peak adult life and only have 4,000 left to live, which just like rocked me. And so here's the thing that people do wrong when they have this kind of wake up call and they're like, I'm going to take back my life. They overcommit themselves. They think, okay, Monday night, I'm going to go play pickleball with friends. Tuesday night, I'm going to go on a date. Wednesday night, I'm going to go and then they are burnt out. Like, you can't do that. I know very few people that can live that kind of like level of social life, especially if you deal with a chronic illness, right? So when you look at the 10 characters, there are characters that are designed for cognitive rest and emotional rest and sensory rest and these other things. So it's about creating intentionality behind these different characters. So let me kind of paint the example. So Monday nights for me is my soloist night. So even if I have my kids and my partner and everybody's in the house by 8 p.m., usually like 7:30, kids are in their rooms, they're reading their books. I go around and I say goodnight to everybody. It's a quicker tuck in that night. And I go straight to my bedroom. And my partner knows that's my night. Like, I'm not good at doing like a 12-step skincare routine or anything like that. But Monday nights, I'll wear the red light mask. I will watch my show and no one needs me. If they need me, no, you don't. So that's my soloist character. My partner knows that. Tuesdays we do Taco Tuesday night in this house. It's my intentional family night. I struggle with like being the most like intense, like planning fun things mom. Like I like to be around my kids, but Tuesday nights are like game night. We'll play a game and we know that. We hold that sacred. If I can do that, that's enough. Wednesday night's date night. I know that Wednesday nights are a night to like be more intentional about reconnecting as a couple, not just as co-parents and roommates and people who are, building businesses alongside each other. Thursday night is my lazy character. And I do this with my kids when I have them, but it's like, I need to just like become one with the couch. My phone is not near me. We just rest. We watch a movie. We order takeout. I think I need cognitive rest on Thursday. It's been a long week. I'm gearing up for the weekend. Friday, I try to see friends. And it's just this like intentional rhythm to my week that I now know and have. And I'm meeting my different human needs in a way that's like, again, it's about enoughness. I can't be solo every night. I have 3 kids. I can't play games with my kids every night. I'd be exhausted. I can't go on a date every night. I want to see my kids. So you have to kind of build this intentionality and acknowledge that you can turn up the volume on one character at night and it'll feel really good and meet that character's needs and move that character's plot line forward. And so that's the whole concept of taking back the 5 to 9.
And I've actually started to take back the 5 to 9 in my mornings too. I know that a lot of that
Yeah.
was in the evenings, but the 5 to 9 in the mornings I've been taking back as well. So another concept that you talk about in the book, which was helpful to me, was around routines to help you with transitioning between
Mm-hmm.
characters. It's something that now living with my fiance and when we were first dating, it felt so easy to transition between work
Mm,
to date night because I would physically leave my apartment. I would go to see
yep.
him. I knew it was a date night. Now we're living together and it's like, I'll kind of be in this, I'm working from home. So I'll be in this flow of work and it's hard for
Yeah.
me to turn off work and then get into partner mode. And so could you talk a little bit about how you
Yeah.
how you created frameworks for that?
Yeah, this is exactly the reason why I created this, because that's when you acknowledge that we have these diverse versions of ourselves, we have to acknowledge that if those versions, the further away they are in terms of like energies and values and how they show up in your life, the further apart they are, the more of a transition time and sequence you need. So, a transition sequence, and how I describe it in the book, I call it the art of transition, ART. So, A stands for awareness, awareness of the character that you are currently in and the character that you're going to step into. So, let's take your example, work mode to partner mode. Okay. So, you spend a couple of minutes kind of thinking about like, okay, who am I in work mode and what do I value and what's my energy system and what do I care about? Who am I when I'm in partner mode? And I think you just brought up such a beautiful reminder. I think a lot about dating and when I was a single mom going on dates, how much easier it was. My transition sequences were so built in because I got ready in the bathroom. A babysitter was downstairs if I was going on a date when I had my kids, and I'd say goodnight and then I'd leave and I'd have this whole kind of transition sequence to be in this like lighter, flirtier version of myself. So I acknowledge that in partner mode, I want to be this like curious, compassionate, like flirty, fun human. Next is ritual. So, what do I need to transition into that version of me? Well, we learned when we moved in together that I need solo time. I need to get ready and he can't see me. So, he now gets ready in a different bathroom if we're going on a date. He doesn't get to see me until I'm fully ready. And then I've listened to my like girly music, my like 90s hip hop, my like things that I would have listened to and then he like picks me up basically. And we'll set a time. And it's like, okay, I'll be there at 7. And it's like he knocks on the door and I'm ready to go at 7. And we leave together. Or we like whatever it is, even if we're just gonna go like have a cocktail in the backyard or something. And the other thing is like he fully takes the cognitive load of the kids. Because I remembered when I would have a babysitter downstairs while I'm getting ready, the cognitive load of taking care of the kids was now out of my head. So he now knows that he has to kind of take care of that. If I need to show up as a partner, I can't also be thinking about what are they having for dinner and like where are their jammies and is Lincoln's Bubba around, like all of the things. So ritual. And then you transition and you say, for the next X amount of time, I'm in this character. So I'll say to myself, for the next 2 hours, I'm in partner mode. And it's important for me to honor that version of me because that version of me's goals are I want to have a long lasting marriage. I don't want to go through divorce again. Like, this is an important part of me that I can't let these other characters steal the spotlight and the screen time.
I really am in love with this idea of the way that you set up your date night transitions. I feel like I need to do this myself too because we've been trying to find ways to make date night exciting again because it was so fun when you like have that anticipation before
Yeah.
seeing each other and then and you get into your day-to-day routines and it's hard to break out and give those characters each their moment. So it seems you've really mastered that.
It's always a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
It's so easy to be like, yeah, you can just shower in here while I'm like doing my makeup. And then I'm like, he sees me putting on like my eyebrows and I'm just like, this isn't cute. Like, I don't want you to see this. And it has nothing to do with like not feeling comfortable. It's like truly the version of me that wants to feel cute and on a date and sexy, like, I want you to just like be wowed, not see the sausage making. Like,
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You want to wow them. So we jumped right into character theory, and I want to circle back to really actually the title of this book, Toxic
Mhm.
Grit, and really define it. What do you
Yeah.
mean when you say toxic grit?
So the definition is hustle without intention. And I think it's really important because we live in a society that loves to call something good or bad, right? Like we
Mhm.
live in a very binary society. You're either this or you're that. And hustle used to be a great thing, especially for women. It was like lean in, break glass ceilings. Now we're in a weird society that's like, be a trad wife, be like in your soft girl era. And it's like hustle is bad, hustle culture is bad. And yes, like a lot of the narratives around what it looks like to hustle, they are toxic, they are bad. But hustle without intention is the definition, because hustle is not inherently bad. If you are going after a goal, and part of the human experience is believing you are meant for more and trying to go after it, it gives you a sense of purpose in your life. So toxic grit happens when you're going after that bigger goal without checkpoints and spin cycles, and you do so at the expense or loss of the other characters in the movie of your life, where one character just takes over. So that's why we no longer celebrate one-dimensional success of people. I mean, there's so many tech bros that put like, like an Elon Musk or somebody on a pedestal. And it's like, yeah, he's about to be a trillionaire, but how many estranged children does he have, and how many exes does he have? It's like we have to stop celebrating one-dimensional success, because I don't know many people who would want that version of success put onto their life. So it's the honoring of hustle for whatever character you've put into the front burner. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that. I know many women who hustled as a mom, like they put every egg in their basket into caregiver mode, and for 18 years. And then their kids graduate from high school, go off to college, and they're like, who the heck am I? Like, I have let one character take over the whole movie. So every character can grow toxic when it starts to deplete every other plot line of all the other characters. So that's the definition, and that's why it's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and now you also write about this idea that we can have it all but not all at once. And so tell me a little bit more about what having it all looks like to you now in this season compared to who you were before you really dug into this concept of toxic grit and the character theory and transformed your life.
It's funny because 6 weeks ago, I was gearing up for the book to come out. The book came out just a few weeks ago. It was just all CEO on deck. It was in the book, you'll see the stovetop of life. And it's kind of those 5 burner stovetops where there's like a big one in the middle, and you've got two smaller ones in the front, and then 2 in the back. In a season, you have to determine which characters are getting the front burners, the big middle one, and then the who's not even on the stovetop. For the months leading up to the book, the CEO character was right in the middle, big burner. Now I've shifted that to the back burner. CEO is in the back burner now. Doesn't mean I'm not still working and promoting the book, but I now have new parameters. I'm saying no to a few things. Whereas before I was like, yes, anything coming my way, I'm saying yes to everything. I'm doing it all. Luckily, we made the bestseller list, and like that got me to the goal that I wanted. And now I can rearrange. Toxic grit is when you just keep going because you're now high off of the dopamine that it's giving you. And I just posted over the past week, like I have been in such pure mom mode over the past week. It was like my daughter's birthday. I hosted the slumber party this past weekend. She got contacts this week. It was like a lot of momming. And then this week I've got a lot of soloist time. I'm going to spend a lot of time because creatively I'm spent. I need to take some time to like pour back into myself. I couldn't have soloist time when I'm running all over the place. And when I'm fully in mom mode, I don't get a lot of soloist time. So it's this idea that you are intentionally placing something to allow it to take over more time and to not feel guilty about that, and to create a spin cycle or a checkpoint where you check in with yourself. So I'll literally put meetings with myself on my calendar. I do it once a month now because I'm kind of into the rhythm. So the first of every month, I'll look at my calendar. I'll check in with myself using some of the resources in the book, and I'll say, okay, who's getting the majority of my energy and time and focus? And then who's getting kind of the front burners and who's getting back burners? And now I can look back over months in my journal and say, I have not put my explorer character on the stovetop in a while. And it's a one-to-one. I can start to see, I'm feeling less creatively stimulated. Oh, I haven't put my explorer character on the stovetop in a while. And exploration and serendipity and novelty are so important to my creative process. That makes total sense. Putting the creative character back on my stovetop. What does that look like? How am I going to create more space and intentionality around serendipity and exploration and novelty this month? So it's just giving yourself an operating rhythm of these characters so you can acknowledge and be intentional and not string the same day for 365 days and then wake up and feel so disconnected from yourself. If you do it once a month, I feel like that is enough time where you can say, is something kind of going off the rails? I'm feeling disconnected. Let's do a quick audit. Who hasn't gotten a lot of screen time? Oh, I haven't seen my girlfriends in 2 months. I'm putting my socialite character back on the stovetop and I'm planning a girls' night, or I'm going to start planning a weekend getaway for us, or whatever it is. It's the intentionality. And I do think that when your health is all consuming, it can be so easy to hope that someone else will take that cognitive load off your plate and invite you to something. But we have to kind of take back the agency and what we need in our life. And my friends know that if I miss them, I'm going to be like, we're having a costume party on this night. Bring wine. We're doing a murder mystery dinner. They know that I'm just going to be like, I miss you. I need to see you. Here's the forum in which we're doing that.
I really just admire the way that you're able to share all of these experiences and this framework that you've created, because this is so revolutionary, Amanda. And I think we're all seeing that in the way that your book has taken off. It is on the bestseller list. I only imagine it's going to keep climbing, because this is clearly something that so many women and men, but I know it's largely targeted towards women, need in their lives. I am so grateful to you. I know that our community is going to be so grateful to you as everybody starts reading it. I'm going to have us do a book club meeting on it because I think it's incredible.
Let me know and I'll join.
Yay! So definitely we need people to read the book, right? That's number one. But for the person who's listening right now and they're like, oh my God, Amanda's got it all together. She's figured out how to make her characters work and she's got this perfect schedule. Maybe some people could feel overwhelmed, but they want to make a change. They want to move away from the toxic grit and towards a more sustainable ambition. What's one action that somebody could take today to get started?
Obviously, the book is a great place to start, but I would say the first thing I would get curious on is think of which character is dominating the movie of your life. That's maybe your non-health character, because obviously if you're dealing with a chronic illness, that's sometimes very difficult to dive deeper into because it's all consuming. But I would ask to get curious as to what script you think that character is reading from. And is it one that society wrote? Is it one that your culture wrote? Is it one that your familial, generational family line wrote? For example, part of the reason why I had toxic grit is because I'm a first generation college grad and I watched how hard my dad had to work to build a business, and he was the town plumber and electrician. And I wanted to break our family's kind of cycle of not kind of like staying in kind of generational poverty. And I felt this intense desire to do that. But that is a script I was reading from. Those are all limiting beliefs that I was reading from. So I would just start to like get curious. If you were to zoom out and be like, the movie of my life, here are the characters. Who wrote their script that they're reading from? That's a great place to start. Like that will open up so many revelations. You can start to think about like why your caregiver character, like why you think that you can't get a babysitter or you can't be alone on Mother's Day or you can't take your birthday and not see anyone on your birthday. Like whatever things that you're like, if you ever start to have judgment over somebody else doing something that's working for them, that's just a little signal of a script you've been given and reading from because the judgment is where kind of old scripts lie. And it's just a signal.
Amanda, this episode has been so jam-packed with value and insight. Thank you for giving so generously to us in the Chronic Boss community and the larger world for bringing these insights and this theory, because I do really believe it is game-changing and it already is helping so many women. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being with us today. And I am celebrating you and cheering you on. And I can't wait to see Toxic Grit make it to #1 on the bestseller list.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Chronic Boss Unfiltered. But there are so many other ways we can stay connected. Head to chronicboss.com to access free resources, explore our membership, and join the community. You'll find all the links you need in the episode notes below. If this episode spoke to you, send it to a friend who gets it. Leave us a review or hit that follow button so you never miss a moment. Thank you for spending this time with us. Cheers to you, your health, and your wealth. See you next time.